And we're live. All right, Grant. This is France 98. This week's club is brought to you by Football Fan App, giving the fans a voice, even when you're sat at home doing nothing. Get your free download on the App Store and on the Google Play Store, and there's still lots of mad content going on there, including, I think they're doing virtual league matches and virtual FIFA matches and all that type of stuff, so it's definitely worth tuning into them and following them and downloading the app. As we said, tonight we continue on our series of World Cup reviews, bringing lots of authority and knowledge of previous World Cups to you, the masses, because you love it. Joining me tonight, normally I have our host, Ray Dickinson. Say hello, Ray.
All right, Phil. All right, everyone.
Good man. Ray is guesting tonight because he attended a match in France in Euro 98. And wasn't
98.
France 98. Whatever, it's fucking Europe, isn't it? That's all the same. Nobody gives a shit about international football, lads. We're trying to fill in time here. Come on, let's be honest about it, right? Alongside Ray is our good friend and colleague there, Keith, with his baldy, shiny head. Next time you're on the camera, Keith, we're going to have to get some makeup for the top of your head as well as for the front of your head.
Yeah, I know. I feel I only done a Kenny Millard and sort of done the face. I should have done the whole head. So, lessons learned.
Yeah, you look like John Hartson. And then beside him is a man who should have been at the 1998 World Cup. It is, of course, former Ireland centre-half, Gary Breen. It's good to
that's all right.
It's good to have you, Gar. I'm hoping to get your insight on this. You were an up-and-coming young footballer before your big move to Barcelona, of course, at this point in time. Right, lads, tonight we're talking about France 98. We've done Italia 90, which was probably the last of the old style World Cups where it made a difference, and it was the pinnacle of football. We moved on to USA 94, which is that transition. It's what Liverpool were for the best part of 27 years, a transition team. That was a transition World Cup, going from the old World Cup to the new World Cup. And we're on now to what could be described as the first of our modern World Cups, which is the ones that we're more used to, which is, of course, France 98, the whole setting, the expanded version, all the teams, all the television coverage. We're into a time where 24/7 sports channels were around. We were used to daily coverage of football on the television. We have a Champions League, which is fully burgeoned into what it is, which is the monster of all football at this stage. And we still have a World Cup being held in Europe. So for the biggest and the most vast sort of football audience, this World Cup is at times that they can all be present, and sort of there was no getting off work. There was none of that type of stuff. It was just pure at the times that we expected to see football matches at. So with that, Ray, you are representing probably the only team here, because the rest of us are all Irish, so we weren't there. But like you got to support the team to World Cup and England. Yep. And what was the feeling there? Actually, before I do that, and I'll come back to you in a second, Ray, when we start talking about real football. But also, it's a very important moment because this is the year the après match is born. So, Keith, you would have been just old enough now at this stage to understand and fully appreciate après match when it appears, because it appears out of nowhere in Irish television, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. It left a lasting impression, you know. When it first came out, it was only sort of meant to be just one or two things, wasn't it? It was a little side bit, and it could have gone with the Irish stuff, you know. It could have been successful. It could have been absolute shite, but no, it was absolutely. It was brilliant, and some of the stuff they've done, some of the skits, if you look back at it now, still they can crack you up. You know what I mean?
Outrageous, Gar. Yeah. As do you remember how you felt when you saw après match appear? Because this was okay. So for anyone who's watching from England doesn't know what après match is, go on to Google and look up après match, and we'll tell you. But
say it like a true après match person there, Phil.
Yeah. But to be fair, I was a fan of après match from the early days, right? Because I remember it as being Frank's telly people on. What was the Night Owl on Network 2, and it was when Barry Murphy started doing Frank's Telly People, and he was basically Frank Stapleton, and he had a shoebox on his head, and he over pronounced the T's because in the 1990 World Cup, Frank Stapleton, of course, had done the ad for the permanent TSB. And he's very over pronunciated his T's when he talked on the television. So that's where the birth of Frank Stapleton was. But anyway, that was it. But Gareth, you remember après match appears in 98 and you have Frank Stapleton wandering around Paris looking for the Louvre and Où est le centre de Georges Pompidou?
They're unbelievable, and for anyone who hasn't seen these guys live, you need. Ray, I don't know if you've been to see them live, but they're absolutely off the wall. You'll be in a heap of laughter. Well, as Phil says, the Stapleton permanence. And seeing any Irish player who went away always had this stupid voice that went on. It was almost like McLaren's Holland voice at times. It was big, but what some of the stuff they came out was absolutely off the charts. And then obviously they went on to slag Dunphy and Giles in later years. But brilliant they were, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Honestly, if whoever's watching, if you get a chance, go onto YouTube, just type in après match, and you've got about the best part of 20 years of various different football skits. Some of it's off the wall stuff, and the early stuff, particularly in France '98, is just madness. It's pure madness, especially if you know anything about Irish sort of football players and references, you'll get it. But even without it, because Ireland weren't in there, it was a lot more English based and it's a lot more international based because the joke in here is ridiculous, and Terry Venables is a joy to behold. The Terry Venables impression alone is worth tuning in and tuning in for it. Right, onto the competition. So Ray, back to you. A proud Englishman that you are. You've got them heading off to the World Cup. This is a golden generation, like every England team going to a World Cup. But this one does have David Beckham, and it does have that 17-year-old enigma, which is Michael Owen, breaking into the team as well as we come up to the tournament. What was the thoughts? What was the feelings of the nation at that point when England were heading off to the World Cup, particularly having missed out in 1994 and coming off the height in 1996?
Yeah, obviously. Euro 96, everyone was on a high. Obviously, change of manager in the interim. You had Terry Venables going and Glenn Hoddle coming in. And obviously getting to that semi-final in Euro 96 and going out in unlucky fashion sort of thing against Germany. It was kind of a bit of a split as to people wanting Venables to stay on. But anyway, look, Hoddle comes in and there was that, I think it was before the World Cup, there was the controversy, wasn't there? Gascoigne gets left out the squad for starters. And there's this whole link with, is it Eileen Drury, is it?
Taylor.
Yeah. So... there's a bit of a news story there before, and a bit of a distraction, really, a bit of a circus almost before before things get underway. But yeah, I mean, the group they got looked handy enough on paper. Tunisia in the first game, Romania in the second game, Colombia in the third game, and in typical England style, you're looking at the group that you faced off against for the next round, like who you're going to get. And the thing was, you wanted to win the group because you wanted to avoid getting Argentina, which ultimately they don't do. But going into the tournament with, looking back at that squad, it was just littered with stars. Do you know what I mean? But I mean, even as a Liverpool fan, the likes of you could only but admire the likes of Beckham and Scholes. That they were tearing up in the Premier League. And obviously we had our own Michael Owen coming through. We'd already got glimpses of what he was all about, and it was exciting to see that he was in the squad. But obviously had a formidable task to break in, really, because Shearer and Sheringham were a duo that were kind of almost set in stone at that point,
Keith, heading into this tournament, obviously Scotland have qualified as well, so we've come off the back of the 94 World Cup where the only team from the British Isles was the Republic that managed to get over there. This sees two of the traditional home nations as such qualify, which is the traditional two, i.e. being England and Scotland, because they've qualified for more World Cups than the rest of the countries. So, where you would have been about what, 18 at this stage?
17. I was 17 when this World Cup happened.
This was like the '94 World Cup for me. So this, and that's why '94 sticks in my head so much.
Yeah.
It's like it's your formative years when you're coming out of schoolboy football, like in terms as a football fan, and you're sort of paying a lot more attention to what's on the television. But you've got the benefit that there's a lot more football on the television as well. So it's like this is where the saturation begins.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's an excellent point, because it was at this stage, there was very few surprises. You alluded to it earlier on. The Champions League was in full flow. We knew a lot of players. We knew a lot of even the South American players. You'd have a lot more information on them. I know for example, the likes of Paraguay made a bit of an impression in this World Cup, and you knew about Chilavert, for example, before the tournament. So it was more accessible, and it was more prevalent. Maybe the stars certainly of the tournament, and it was my formative years. Now I remember, I won't forget this World Cup, because I became a father shortly after the '98 World Cup for the first time. I was only a whippersnapper myself, so 98
controversial.
Was a good year for me. So just shortly after the World Cup finished, but I did spend, I watched all the World Cup. It was at that age, and you're right, Phil, as you said, the last World Cup, and I know, Dicko, you were the same, you were at that sort of similar age, and you just hoover up football. It's all you sort of consume at that age, and especially at this stage, being 17, 18, whatever, you're looking at it, and it is, it's everywhere. There's no getting away from football. Ireland aren't in it, but it didn't sort of dampen the coverage or the mood in Ireland for the World Cup. It was just, you just wanted to hoover it all up, and it was a great World Cup in that sense. From watching, we'd spoke the last two where Ireland were there. Ireland weren't at this one, and it was just sitting back and looking. We've got two sort of superstars in this World Cup coming into it. Maybe not coming in, but Ronaldo coming of age, and you had Zidane coming into the fore as the great French hope, and there was a lot around this World Cup with the expectation, and what were we going to see from these guys, and it was just a great World Cup.
Gar, as an ex-player and obviously as a coach now, what was your take on the World Cup? Like your age belies your.
I was 16, so slightly younger, and I wasn't becoming a father. Thank God.
You had a really bad paper round. Now look at the head of you.
From this one, lads, I think the main thing from, I suppose, as we carried on with the World Cups, was the attacking talent that was on show in this World Cup. Keith's already spoken about Ronaldo. You've slightly touched on, but you'd obviously Bergkamp, you'd Christian Vieri battering people for it, battering centre halves. You'd Batistuta, you'd Salas as well. You'd Rivaldo, Oliver Bierhoff was a machine for Germany as a goal scorer. Rivaldo, you Davor Sucor, he was so so easy in his finishing at times. It was just so much attacking talent on this World. I think it was the one World Cup where we saw an array, I suppose, with the Holland not being that good either, I suppose. They were in the midst of their fighting as well, weren't they, that year as well? So, but there was so much attacking, as you said, Shearer, Sheringham. It was a joy to watch as someone who likes attacking football.
Yeah.
Right, looking at this, so let's kick off where we start. So that I'll come back at the end and sort of leave the controversy and the sort of bribery and everything that goes on around this, because it's the post thought as opposed to what we were aware of at that time. But we'll come back to that when we wrap up the review of this World Cup. But let's kick off with this. So we've got the groups, the 6 groups. There's 7 groups, 8 groups. Oh, 4 teams. That's because there was 42 teams, because it was 6 before, be 24. See, there's the maths. It's all up there. Definitely drink hasn't affected me, right? But going into it, the draws were pretty much, the groups look like they play out the way we thought they would in terms of the teams that are in there. So if you look at Group A, you've got Brazil, Norway, Morocco, Scotland. Going into it, you'd probably say it's Brazil plus one of Norway or Scotland. Then you had Group B was Italy, Chile, Austria, and Cameroon. There, you're probably thinking Cameroon, given the last World Cup and the emergence of the African teams, etc. Roger Milla was back for this World Cup as well, 38-year-old. Then in Group C, you had France, Denmark, South Africa, and Saudi Arabia. Again, you would have thought France and Denmark is coming out of this prior to the tournament starting. You get on to Group D, you've got Nigeria, Paraguay, Spain, and Bulgaria. Probably thinking,
surprise.
I know, but you're probably thinking after Euro 96 and World Cup 94, Spain and Bulgaria are the two teams likely to come out with that, with maybe Nigeria being the dark horses in that group. But that is a real group of death in terms of what it was. Group B, then you have Holland, Mexico, Belgium, and South Korea. That is another group of death because given the history of Holland, Mexico, and Belgium over the last 3 to 4 World Cups as well, you're saying it's one of those, it's probably two of those three. South Korea, great lads and all, turn up, great show for the World Cup, but they're not going to be getting out of that group in any week of Sundays. And then you've got Group F, which has Germany, Yugoslavia, Iran, the US. Obviously, Germany got on to Jacques Chirac before the World Cup started and said, look, we'll literally lash on the interest rates if you don't put us in a nice group. They then rang Alex Ferguson and figured out how to handle the hot balls to get that sorted out. And then after that, then we move on to Group G, and that's England's group. We have Romania, England, Colombia, and Tunisia, which, on the face of it, again, that's slightly harder than most England groups, but you're thinking to yourself, England's coming out easy with either Romania or Colombia making up the second place and Tunisia in bottom spot. And in the last group is Argentina, Croatia, Jamaica, and Japan. And like you're saying, Argentina. And arguably, you're thinking probably Croatia in this one, mainly because most of the Yugoslavia team from the previous World Cup or the previous Euros, I think it's Euro 92 when they missed out, and Italia 90, they would have made up the body of the Croatian side, and Croatia would have been Croatia's first World Cup as well in terms of what it was. So lads, heading into, I remember looking at this and thinking to myself, can I remember how excited I was for the kick-off of the World Cup? Because Brazil versus Scotland is the opening match of this World Cup.
And I actually went, Phil,
That's where I'm getting onto, right? That's where I'm getting onto it, because if there's one person in this group that has something relevant to say around this pod, it's definitely you at this, because you end up at the opening game for this. My own thoughts, thinking back to it, was I remember the hype going into this, and there was a feeling, because obviously watching the English broadcast and stuff, that Scotland could potentially do something in this match and maybe get a draw and get a good start to the group. But this Brazil team was literally a team that people feared. This is Ronaldo and Rivaldo at the absolute peak of their powers. This is a far more attacking Brazilian team than the 94 one was, and they're going in as holders as well. So, right, how the fuck did you end up at the opening game of World Cup 98 at Brazil versus Scotland? Are you going to reveal a tartan now, skirt or whatever?
No, it was my first. I was 22 at the time, and it was my first job, and I've been in sales for a year, and it was my first sales incentive, and it was to go to the opening game of the World Cup. Which was a handy little number, to be honest with you.
Yeah, say so, yeah.
and obviously Brazil Scotland wasn't a bad one, really. The only catch was, I was living in London at the time. The only catch was it was a day trip, so it was up at the crack of dawn. It was the Eurostar, which back then wouldn't have been going that long, so it was still a bit of a novelty. Eurostar to Paris, and then the metro out to the stadium, and went to a fan park. Actually, it was a corporate gig, so had a bit of a slap up meal, which nice. And Andy Gray was the guest speaker.
Wow.
Then on the coach. Into a fan park, and then into the game and watching the opening ceremony. And I seem to remember being quite underwhelmed by the opening ceremony. I don't think it was all that. It was up to that much, to be honest with you. We were talking last week about Diana Ross, and you know what I mean. There was certainly no Diana Ross moment or anything.
Well, have you ever watched France in the Eurovision?
Absolute drivel. Absolute.
Yeah, like they don't do music. Like name a famous French singer.
No.
They're too busy smoking, making wine and cheese and philosophy to worry about singing.
I thought they'd play at least Jola Taxi and wheel out Vanessa Paradis or something like that.
Oh. I think Vanessa Paradis was in the opening ceremony.
She was.
Sasha Bistel.
Yeah, I mean, I remember going thinking that Scotland would, there was talk that Scotland did have some kind of chance on the basis of, you see in World Cups, the first games can be very cagey. And if you're going to get anything from a big team, I think the first game is always the game to potentially do it in. Catch a team like Brazil or in Italy or whoever it is in that first game cold. And to be fair, Scotland could have got something out the game. I mean, Brazil scored early. And then you thought, okay, maybe the floodgates will open, and Brazil did have chances, but then obviously, I think it's second half, and Scotland get a penalty and equalise. And to be fair, like I was celebrating like a Scotland fan. I did. I think we said last week, I support any of those nations that are in the World Cup, but ultimately, Brazil. Their pressure told. I think it's an OG, isn't it? It's an OG that wins the game. Brazil. And once they scored, you just knew, like, it was just there was no way that Scotland were gonna claw that back.
Yeah. To be fair, Owen Book just said Scotland had Gordon Geordie up front, so Brazil had Ronaldo. So.
And they had Jim Leighton, 40-year-old Jim Leighton in goal. Yeah. I had to do a second take. Like, was I actually at a game where Jim Leighton was in goals? Like, I thought he was a player from a bygone era before I started going to football matches. But look, I mean, Brazil, ultimately they do go on to the final. I thought they were decent on the day, but they certainly weren't. They weren't sort of. They didn't look like world beaters at that point.
Yeah,
that's. I don't know, Keith. That stood out in my mind from the opening games. And after that, nothing really stands out in my mind because I was drunk for most of the rest of the World Cup. So I was like, so hence why I'm hosting as opposed to talking about it. I'd actually finished my finals in university. Actually, come to think of it, I'm only remembering now. I was in London. We must have been too far from each other. I was in London that summer.
Okay, yeah.
Then I also ended up out on a farm in Kent picking strawberries at one stage that summer as well, right? So it was because I just done my finals and I'd gone off to see the Golden Pats in London, and kept walking and ended up in a field in Stroud in Kent instead.
That's a fair walk.
And going to a local pub in Stroud and watching the World Cup there. And the lads hadn't had a day off about 4 weeks, and we managed to turn up. It's like that famous joke where the lads turn up in hell and they're standing there having drinks and stuff like that. And the man says, well, it's been 500,000 years, right back in their heads, and they all put their heads into the shit. So, but we ended up in the pub for the weekend, so it was great. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Yeah, the thing about this game that always jumped out in my mind was I always thought that Scotland deserved to get something out of that game.
Yeah.
Right. So that was my point, Keith. Go on.
Well, no, it is a good point though. Looking at the team, and with the exception of 63-year-old Jim Leighton, it wasn't a bad Scottish team. And back then, Rangers more so than Celtic actually they were a big team, you know what I mean? And I know the Rangers had a lot more of a Dutch influence in their squad than what Celtic had. But going through the Scottish team, Tom Boyd, Colin Calderwood, Colin Hendry, Christian Daly, they had a decent defence. They had Paul Lambert and John Collins. Now I don't know where they were at that stage of their career, but Lambert had won the Champions League with Dortmund. Right. Collins was playing for Monaco. You know what I mean? So the continental experience, two very good midfield players actually. The Borley in there as well, and then Gordon Geordie's up front, Kevin Gallagher and Darren Jackson. Their front line's a bit scaldy, but they were a decent team. It was a tough team, that way. It wasn't a team you were going to really slaughter. And I suppose Brazil also had a reputation for being slow starters. Had a reputation for being slow starters as well at the World Cups. And they didn't. Maybe it's the pressure. The first game, just get that out of the way. I mean, we spoke about your USA '94, Italy were playing pony and that until the knockouts. Brazil started off, even though the expectation, because we'd come off the Turnwald and all for this, hadn't we? And Roberto Carlos scored that blatant bendy free kick.
Yeah.
So there was so much hype around them going into this, and maybe it was just one of them just didn't live up to it. You know, if they had one of the other teams in the group maybe first, Morocco or Norway, might have been different. But Scotland were a tough team. You know, you can look back at it, it's hindsight, you know what I mean? Now they're shy, but you look back at them, they weren't a bad team, Scotland, and it was a tough game when you look at it.
Now that we got the first game out, we've only got 174,000 games to go. So if you're ready to listen to us until Friday, thanks.
Are we skipping Morocco and Norway? Just we're not going to talk about that, are we not?
No, I was going to ask Gar what was thoughts on the Morocco, the 2-2 draw between Morocco and Norway.
That's too much, I can.
The goals for Norway, right, was Youssef Chippo got an OG and Dan Egan scored for Norway as well. And the headline was Egan Chippo that got the goals, you know, so Egan Chippo. I'll never forget that, Egan Chippo.
Egan Chippo. Right, I'm going to go, look, across the sort of group stage, it's much of a muchness, and I think we all know, as I said, this is the first real modern World Cup where you know yourself, you win 2 games, you're through to the next phase, right?
Yeah.
If you win one and draw 2, you're through to the next phase as well. So 6 or 5, anything more, 5 points plus is more or less going to get you into the next stage. And looking across the groups, it plays out as we mainly expect, with the exception of a few. Now, the first one, Italy are traditionally slow starters, and there's no difference here because they draw 2-0 with Chile. But that Chile game was mad. And I was looking at the Chile squad and I was there going, that must have been Sanchez, but it wasn't, because Sanchez doesn't arrive until 2006 World Cup, right? This is Marcelo Salas's breakout one.
Yeah. Ivan Zamorano, Salas, he had a good squad.
Zamorano is the captain, and was he Inter Milan at that stage? Was he Inter Milan at that stage?
Inter, wasn't it? Yeah.
Or Real Madrid.
No, he would have been at Inter, because wasn't he at Inter when Ronaldo rocked up and he was number 9 and he had to change to 1+8.
Yeah. So you've got Zamorano, you've got all the lads, but this is Vieri's World Cup. From an Italian perspective, this is where the bus that is Christian Vieri just plows through most teams. Go on. Who wants to wax lyrical about the I'm going to go through group by group as opposed to match by match, right? So to be honest with you, Group A, there's fuck all already happens in it outside of Brazil wins loads of games and then lose to Norway in their last match when it's mathematical at that stage. They can't be caught. They play a load of lads that they just found knocking around playing street ball on the beaches before the match itself. And Ronaldo was on fire at this stage, and he's just proven everyone right as the best striker in the world. And Rivaldo, even with his bendy legs, is just doing mad things where he's setting them up all the time. Rivaldo's bendy legs, to me, to this day, are still a mystery. Like, he looks like a fella who's been riding around the Pappas for 4 hours a day, at least, if not 4 years a day. But anyway, Group B. So
that Italy, so I feel it was just full of so much talent when you look back, and it wasn't it. You wonder how they didn't win the World Cup that year. We get it back for Cannavaro, Costa Corte, Maldini was in that side, Albertini playing centre mid, Nesta. It's absolutely ridiculous.
You still got the talent on that side as well.
Yeah,
Vieri was, that type of. He was skillful. He was a tank up front. Yeah. He hadn't got a lot of pace, but he could certainly get by players.
Yeah. And Di Matteo was at Chelsea. He was the only non-Italian based player.
That was on the bench.
Yeah.
And Del Piero on the bench.
Yeah, it was some team, and it was like, you're looking at, they were the finalists in '94, so they were highly rated going into this. But this group is tricky enough.
Yeah.
Look, it's not a walk in the park for them.
No, there's no easy teams in it. I mean, right, Cameroon. That it's not the best Cameroon team we've seen at the World Cup at this stage.
League of Ireland, Keith, can I come across the League of Ireland legend plays in this World Cup for Cameroon? Joseph Endo. Played for Cameroon this World Cup.
Absolutely for Shells, Waterford and Bowes and many other teams in the League of Ireland. So
that's any League of Ireland lads, and they'll tell you he's an absolute genius.
Great League of the World's getting a shout out on this one. Go on.
You love to see it.
He's still down as playing only 4 years ago, actually. He only retired 4 years ago.
Roger Miller.
Must be in the genes.
But in this group, then we also had the great Liverpool Rigobert Song.
Rigobert Song
for the second World Cup in a row.
That's right. But this is the emergence of Samuel Eto'o.
Yeah.
He's a 17-year-old for Leganes in this World Cup. Like, people have no idea what this fella's going to go on to achieve later in his career. But like, this is where Samuel Eto'o, the star of Samuel Eto'o, was born. And I always love looking back at these World Cups. It's like Michael Owen and Samuel Eto'o, and you're looking at two career trajectories that are almost identical in terms of ages and where they go to from here, right? Yeah. And if you're looking at both of them at this stage, you're saying who's going to end up winning the most European Cups, the most everything, and playing the best side in the world, etc., etc. You're going to say Michael Owen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're looking at Eto'o, you're saying this fella could have a good career. Who knows where he could go to? He'd probably end up in a relatively decent Italian side or something like that. So, a bit mad, but there we go. But you're saying that, Keith, that Cameroon side has Eto'o, has Lauren, who'll end up at Arsenal as well. Mm-hmm. It has I'm trying to think. There's Rigobert Song. There's also I can't remember.
Desiree Job. There's
did they have Songo the goal? Did the man Songo the goalkeeper who's
Jack Songo?
Yeah.
He was at Deportivo de La Coruña in their heyday as well.
Francois Biak, he played in the 90 World Cup, so he's hung on at this stage. Solomon Alembe, a few names that you'd recognise, but
the names of the young players in this, because Alembe is 17, Eto'o is 17, Lauren is 21, Rigobert Song is only 21 in this World Cup as well, and except for Songo, who's 34, and I think he played in the previous World Cups as well. So it's like it's a very young squad, you know, and that's the one thing you're looking at saying, because this team is going to be do the business in a couple of years' time. Essentially, that's what you're looking at. And this is why Cameroon are always hotly tipped as being the next as the up and coming African team. Anyway, back to this group, lads, because we could be here waxing lyrical about squads all night. But look, back to this group. You've got Chile, you've got Italy, you've got Cameroon, and you've got some other team to make up the numbers, Austria. And I mean that in the worst possible way. The thing about, I remember Austria because we used to play them all the time in Irish friendlies. Tony Polster, that was it. Like, after that, you may as well just thrown everything else just got thrown out the window. Who cared about nothing? And even with looking at their squad, you was looking at Tony Polster.
Their main man, I think, was Ivica Vastic at this stage.
Could well have been. No idea who he was.
Herzog was quite big. Wasn't he at the time?
Yeah.
Herzog,
Herzog was big, yeah.
Yeah, he was about 15 stone. He was only 5'3".
6 for me.
But yeah, Tony Polster. So we won't talk about Austria. Anyway, lads, this group, Italy. This is outside of the Chile match where it's a fascinating 2-2 draw. There's Salas, there's Zamorano, there's all that sort of thing that's going on. Just plays out the way you expected, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but also, just like the last World Cup, Roberto Di Baggio gets a couple of late goals. I don't know what it is about him and late goals, but he just seems to carry it on through. They actually only win that last game.
When I first saw this product, I thought it looked kind of crazy.
Group game with
didn't really understand what the benefit.
Last minute, Roberto Di Baggio goal.
Austria.
Against Austria, yeah.
The divine ponytail, right? It's the magic that was in the ponytail. Beautiful. It's a beautiful team, but like there's really not much to talk about in that group outside of Christian Vieri being a train.
Yeah,
and just looking at
5 goals or something. Did he banging them in?
Yeah, such a. When you look back at Vieri now, people don't talk about him enough, but he was just phenomenal.
Yeah, phenomenal. It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Beautiful.
But just on England's group, Phil. Before you skip on past the groups, I mean. That second game against Romania, I remember that was a complete shock. No one seen that coming at all. They'd won the first game fairly comfortably, and then it was all sort of systems go. And obviously the last gasp. I'll never forget that last gasp. Dan Petrescu, running in on Graham. So. I think they're both playing for Chelsea at the time.
Yeah.
Left back versus right back, and I don't know what he was doing up there in the 92nd minute or whatever it was to win that game, and it was just complete and utter shock.
But wing back, wasn't he, Petrescu?
Petrescu was, yeah.
They played straight at the back at the time, didn't they?
Back, until wide fullbacks pushed up.
this is what there's 4 things I want to cover off in the group stage. I want to cover off the England game, the group properly, right? But I want to just because there's so much. Again, it's a World Cup tournament. There's so many matches going on. I think the one things that I mentioned before, and we'll do a bit of a deeper dive into the English group, but that Spain group and the elimination of Spain is insane because you have Nigeria emerge as a mad team. And I remember watching Paraguay and I remember thinking to myself that Jose Luis Chilavert was the greatest footballer to have ever walked the earth, because the montages they used to have for him taking free kicks and penalties was just brilliant. And he wasn't a Higuita. He was ruthless, but he was also the skipper. He was also about 2 stone overweight as well. Right? Yeah. And the biggest thing was, and it annoyed me because my feet were too big, right? And I don't have big feet, was when I found out the fella had a size 4.5 foot. People don't realise this, honest to God, people don't realise about Chilavert. And Chilavert puts this down to why his free kick and his dead ball technique was so good, was that he had small feet for a 6'3". Imagine being 6'3" and having a size 4.5 foot. Like, that's just, it's all sorts of wrong.
Well, Hadji said the same. He was only small, but he had tiny feet as well, and he put his sort of passing and dead ball ability down to the fact that he had small feet as well. Yeah,
because you're able to manipulate the. Chilavert was convinced he was able to manipulate the ball more because he could get more traction across the ball as he's.
Well, as you say, if you're his size, you're getting power behind it as well. So you're leading. It's something you won't come across very much.
Zola was the same. Keith Turney, he wore his boots 2 sizes too small.
Yeah, that's
because he get more trajectory and more core on the ball.
Yeah.
So essentially, Chilavert was the devil because he didn't have feet; he had hooves. Right? If you're 6'4" and you've got a size 4.5 foot, there's no toes or nothing there. Like, there's literally, they're just stumps, right? So Stumpy was in goal and he was a legend. But like this group is mad because Spain get eliminated, and the Zubers were to play in this World Cup.
He did.
Yeah,
I remember.
That's why you're putting it down to, because you wrote him off in the last World Cup.
I did, yeah. This is like if Shilton had gone on to the 94 World Cup. Like, that's what I'm talking about here. But I'll never forget Spain getting eliminated because they'd been brilliant in Euro 96. And they just narrowly go out on penalties to England.
Yeah.
And I think we all fancied them to do it. I can't, I just remember this to me was probably arguably the biggest shock of the 1998 World Cup was the elimination of Spain in the group stages. You're taking one of the pre-tournament favourites and a genuine pre-tournament favourite, and they're not getting anywhere even close to getting out of the group. I think the real shock that game was it Nigeria beat them 3-2 in what was a crunch game for them because they put them under pressure then for the rest of the World Cup in terms of the results. That was their opening match as well.
It was,
and then the next game then was Paraguay, and then they finished up with Bulgaria. And if I'm right, Spain essentially are Russia, the 1994 version of Russia, where they absolutely annihilate Bulgaria in the last game.
Last game,
and don't manage to go through.
You can't legislate for that. This is the thing, isn't it? This is the dangerous thing in World Cups. You can't afford to lose that first game because ultimately, Nigeria. Nigeria are qualified, aren't they? They're qualified going into the last game. And they're reliant on Nigeria getting something off Paraguay, and ultimately, the destiny wasn't in their own hands, and they go crashing out. You've got to win your first game in these World Cups, otherwise you're under serious pressure.
You look at them two teams man for man now, as we do now, and you probably would have said fancy Nigeria for this now. Look, man for man, Phil, it's a much better. Technically, it's a much better side.
I know, but you look at the Nigerian team then, and even at that stage, they were so dispersed in terms of who they were. Right, this is Amakachi's World Cup. This is Sunday Elise's World Cup.
Yeah.
This is Kanu's World Cup.
Koche just come in, hasn't he?
You've got Triba West. You've got
Finidi George there.
You've got all these lads who become well-known names off the back of this World Cup, but going into it,
Kanu,
yeah, exactly. You've got Babi Yarrow. You've got Rashidi Yakini. He's robbed Roger Miller's boots now at this stage, and you look at it and you just say to yourself, "This is insane." But then you look at the Spanish team and you think to the Euro '96 and how close they were to eliminating England in Euro '96. And this is a team that has Hierro, who has Morientes, who has Raul, who has Sergi. There's Alfonso there. Albert Ferrer, Luis Enrique. I couldn't get over that Luis Enrique is 28, by the way, in this World Cup. They've got Nadal as well.
That was an
absolute monster, right? You've got Molina as sub-keeper. You've got Canizares, who's also backup keeper. And then you've got Zubizarreta as the captain. I know you say, I put it on Zubizarreta, but when you've Canizares as the backup to Zubizarreta, you've got one fella who can dive and make world-class slaves all over the shop, and you've got Zubizarreta, who's been binned off by Barcelona at this stage because he's been making too many mistakes and is still the captain of Spain. Like, there was when I remember he makes 2 big errors in that Nigeria game.
He scores an OG in that game, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. And it's like, I can remember hits the bar and hits his head and goes in.
Hits his head.
Yeah, it's like you literally couldn't have replaced Peter Shilton with the Spanish Peter Shilton more had you tried, because he couldn't dive or anything. Like, he was literally, his legs were decrepit at this stage. There was lads going out and trying to find wooden planks for him to put his legs back together and everything. It was shocking. But that to me was the standout. Like, that was the shock of the round. Everything else sort of flows how you expect, or you can legislate for what you think is going to happen. But Paraguay going through. And Paraguay beat Nigeria 3-1 in the last game. And again, Nigeria have 6 points at this stage. This goes back to my point that if you get 2 wins, if your first 2 games are 2 wins, you literally have you're sorted. You're through. It's who can get the 5 points next, and that's the way it's been since that World Cup. But right, let's move on. I'll talk about. We can cover off Holland because of the form they had, and where Germany ends up in terms of the bribes and stuff they got to get the group that they did, and what Argentina look like coming out of this. But I want to talk about the English group because, as I said to you, on paper you've got Tunisia, you've got Colombia, and you've got Romania.
Yeah.
And most of the English press thought this is a piece of piss. We've got, like, we're walking out of this group. Outside, if we can get past the Colombia game and not get beaten, we're walking out of this group. We're probably going to have easily 6 to 9 points in this group, if not 7 to 9 points. I think was their expectations given the teams that are in it. But the one thing that always stands out for me in this is the violence that follows the English group games around the place. When it starts, the first game was against Tunisia in Marseille, and I just remember the absolute killings that went on in Marseille, and it was there. Like, what was your take? And now, honestly, being at home and stuff like that and watching the games, what was your take on what was going down?
I mean, you asked me at the start about going, before we come on, about why am I going to Scotland games and not England games. I mean, I wouldn't have any interest really. I went to a couple of friendlies at Wembley where they were mundane affairs. They were never going to be anything other than that. But when there's an opportunity for England fans to travel, particularly in that period, it's not a place that you wanted to go anywhere near. To be honest with you, and at this stage, I will have gone to European games to see Liverpool and stuff. So it wasn't about travelling at that point. It was just a non-starter for me. I mean, the one thing that I noticed in particular about these stadiums and the stadiums where England end up as well. I mean, the capacity are sort of like sub 40,000.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of ticketless England fans going over. You've probably got a lot of ticketless fans, full stop. But there's nothing worse than a combination of ticketless fans who just go over. Particularly England fans get on the lash all day and all day the day before and just cause carnage. And back then it just went hand in hand. You just expect to put on the news of a night and that was all over it, you know what I mean? And it really did. It just pissed you off really to watch it because you knew what was coming. But to be fair, on the pitch, in the stadiums, you didn't really see any evidence of that. It was absolutely the fans going over there with one reason and one reason only. And going back to that last game where they've got to beat Colombia to kind of do or die scenario. And to be honest, like England were fairly comfortable in that game. They didn't really have too much to worry about. It's a cracking goal by Darren Anderton. I would actually get to the start in that game, so he's obviously come on, scored against Romania. I think he nearly scored a second as well. He hit the post just after Romania score, so it could have easily been 2-2. And then you've got a Beckham free kick, kind of classic Beckham free kick, really. Although if you look at that replay, you'll see that the Colombia wall completely disintegrates. So it was a bit soft. That
was this right? Was this this was the World Cup that? No, this wasn't the World Cup that Beckham qualified with the free kick. That was the next one, wasn't it?
It was the next World Cup or the next Euros one where he scores the goal against Greece, isn't it? Yeah.
Kev is on the money here. He says what made it worse was we'd gone from the threat of violence in the 90s, where you didn't have 24/7 rolling news channels, to news channels wanting to fill air and basically having the cameras in you have the cameras at the fan parks in Marseille and stuff like that. But I just remember the carnage in Marseille. I will never forget the carnage. I remember looking
Marseille
at it.
was wrecked.
This was insane, and like they were like there going, lads, this is going to happen. What are you doing by letting this go on there? It just seems madness in terms of what it was. But to be fair, I remember the Colombia game, and of course a couple of years back we had Higuita doing the Scorpion and all that type of stuff in Wembley, and this was the build up, and it was the expectation was that England were going to just batter them and they would roll over. And to be fair, once they get over the scare of Romania, which they shouldn't have had, like, let's be honest about it, like, it's Graham Lasso's moment of madness that puts them in the precarious position that they are. They show a deep level of maturity in managing the Colombian match and getting out of that group very safely. And I have to say, it was one of the few times I've been worried about an English team heading into the knockout phases of a second round, because I thought Hoddle was managing that team incredibly well, and I thought that squad was incredibly strong. And even now, when I was looking through the squads earlier today as prepping for this, I was there going, sweet Jesus, that England squad was immense. Like, you're looking at it and you're there going, where is the weak link? Because there is none. You're looking across the team and you're going, how many teams had a strong 22s? And I'm not even talking about the 1 to 11s. Like, how many teams had a strong 22s going into a World Cup with a manager that was very capable at adapting to continental football styles and like not afraid to change, do a 3 at the back or 4 or whatever it was.
New look for that was the first time that England transitioned to a 3 at the back. And if I'm right in thinking, Gary Neville played
Second time, Bobby Robson did it in the 1990 World Cup.
Oh, but Gary Neville played the right of that 3 for a while, if I'm right in thinking.
He did, yeah.
With Anderton as a wing back, and Lassau was the other wing back.
Yeah. And it was more of the classic 3-5-2. Like in the 90 World Cup, it was all sweepers, and it was a different maybe back 3 type of setup. But that was your classic. I mean, I suppose it's not long after sort of Roy Evans was doing this at Liverpool, so it was a sort of an in vogue sort of formation, wasn't it, at the time? And you're right, you look at that squad and it was maybe not the most creative, and it sounds a bit weird to say that when you had Beckham in there, you had Anderton at left back, but you had Ince in midfield and David Batty. Rob Lee comes on in this Colombia game, but they had a team, a solid team of men.
Combative midfield, wasn't it?
Exactly, combative team. And then you had Michael Owen, then you had David Beckham, and then you had Paul Scholes to add into that, and it was a lovely mix, lovely blend.
But you also have
skill.
But you also have England's best goalkeeper of all time, right? Where we're talking about Spain on the other hand, where Zubizarreta was their captain. You have David Seaman, who I know he makes the mistake in 2002. Well, not makes a mistake. He just gets blamed over by a Ronaldinho shot from 100 yards out, right? And it's ridiculous. But only Ronaldinho is going to do that to you, right?
Yeah.
Unless your name is Naeem in a Cup Winners' Cup final. But honestly, like, I looked at that. I keep looking at that squad, and the one thing that stands out to me, and the biggest thing that stands out to me in this, is again, What Venables did so well in Euro 96 and why they were so unlucky to not win it was he knew how to utilise Steve McManaman. Yeah. And to this day, I'd say, outside of Roy Evans, Terry Venables in England, nobody else knew how to utilise Steve McManaman. And Steve McManaman, had he been given a significant role on this side, would have been the difference maker. Like, if you look at all the other sides, you have these wondrous players. You have Bergkamp, you have Rivaldo, you have Ortega for Argentina, you have Hadji, you've got Okocha for not Denmark.
You've got transfer.
You've got Zidane for France, and we haven't really talked about France, but we'll get onto it in the knockout phases because there's no real point in talking about the group stages realistic. But McManaman is that magical English player, and he doesn't get the time that he should have deserved. And they didn't craft a team around his enigma style, and this is when he's at his height of his powers for Liverpool as well. He's about to go to Real Madrid, and there's a bidding war between Real Madrid and Barcelona for this player. And the English to this day, it's like the John Barnes thing. It's McManaman. It's even out. It comes through in Sterling as well. They don't know how to utilise. So often they don't know how to utilise a player that doesn't fit simply into a square peg and says, I am a right winger, I am a left winger, I am a centre forward, I am a centre midfielder. And this guy is a genius. And ultimately for me, I think that's where the English bid falls down, because Hoddle could never could never sort of square that circle again. Am I right?
Yeah, but at the same time, when you look at the other players around and the system that he's put in place, you can kind of see why he went with what he went. Most of those players have won a league title at that point, or go on to win a league title. You've even got David Batty coming off the bench. Players like Rob Lee as well. He was he was a rising star at that particular moment in time. So, I can understand, why you'd want to try and get McManaman into the side. But I've mentioned it before. There's this kind of real checkered history of Liverpool players in England. You know what I mean? Sometimes it doesn't really matter what Liverpool players are doing at club level. They seem to get slightly overlooked for United players, or for Arsenal players, or for Tottenham players. But
Ray, he's not getting overlooked for an Arsenal. He's getting overlooked for Darren fucking Anderson.
Yeah, well,
Darren Anderson. It's like overlooking
a Tottenham player, I presume, at that point.
Yeah. Be like playing for, I don't know, what's your man, Kyle Walker over Trent Alexander-Arnold. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's being nice to Darren Anderson. Like, Anderson was a one-trick pony. Like, he had a bag of trick, and it was literally going to just do a kick past him. He's Stuart Downing. That's what he is. He's an injury-prone Stuart Downing. It's like, and that's who was getting in ahead of Steve McManaman. And to this day, I keep thinking, when you look at that and you say, here was England's true opportunity to do something, and what kills them then in the Argentina game is that lack of creativity. Ultimately, like, it is the magic that happens from Michael Owen, but outside of that, there was no magic.
Yeah, I mean, Adam obviously scores a cracker, doesn't he? So he almost like justifies his position in the English press, by scoring that goal and being part of getting them through to the group phase, out of the group and into the knockout stage. So, yeah, I mean, it is late. Is it late? It's not that summer, is it? That McManaman goes. He goes the season after, is it?
The year after, is it?
99. So 99 goals.
Yeah. I mean, McManaman, he really. I was a lot more disappointed. I know we're getting onto Liverpool stuff, but like that season, he really did kind of break my heart a little bit, the way he played out his contract there, even more so than Michael Owen. Ultimately, I mean, he was a fantastic player for us, and I don't think he did, as I say again, like a lot of Liverpool players, I don't think he got the right level of credit at international level.
Right, so let me roll it back. England get through, and rightfully so. You've got Romania coming out as well, and Romania lit up. Let's be honest, Romania lights up the tournament as well. Is this the one where they do the blondie hair trick as well in the later in the knockout stages?
Yeah,
I think it's in the quarters, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was in the quarters. And I remember John Motson having an absolute canary over the fact that he was blonde. I think it was mainly because his eyesight was going on and he couldn't he couldn't have just basically figured out who it was, because it was not Iliescu, Petrescu, Maginescu, and the rest of the lads, right? So it was like, we were bad enough with the names, and then they all turned up with blonde hair.
But there was points actually where in that last game, were actually, I think they were getting beat by Tunisia at one point. So there was a stage where England were going to avoid Argentina, because that was being talked about. No one really wanted that rematch, and it looked like they were going to avoid them. But ultimately, they do score, and they draw 1-1, and they go through as group winners, and onto the infamous rematch.
Onto the infamous rematch, indeed. So look, we come out, Holland stroll through the group. They're absolutely smashing, but they're now the Netherlands. They're not Holland anymore at this stage. But it is a tight group. They've got Mexico, they've got Belgium, they've got South Korea, and there's lots of things going on. They win 1, they draw 2, but you've got Bergkamp and the lads starting to really come to form as they get towards the end of the group. I think did they draw Mexico in the last game? It's 2-2, and Belgium draw 1-1 with South Korea. Belgium go out, and that was off the back of them being. Did Belgium drew?
They draw South Korea, didn't they?
Yeah, they drew with Holland, and they lost.
They drew with Mexico, drew with South Korea.
That's right. That's what happened there. And
Mexico have this mad, they always seem to get out the group, don't they? Whoever they get drawn in against, they always manage to get to sneak through. Second spots.
And they had another one of Fields' idols in an absolutely beautiful goalkeeper jersey, Jorge Campos.
Actually, we were talking to him in the 94 World Cup, and we were talking about him. I was watching him play in the 1996 MLS Cup final at the exact same time. And I was trying to show the lads him playing. Yeah. We weren't on video doing it. I was trying to show the lads as we were doing it as well. So I've also spent the wine just over my MacBook just here. It's just
I thought that was happening.
Did you hear the dunk? Did you hear the dunk? It was like
I remember you nearly did it last week.
Yeah. This time I managed to do. So I succeeded where I failed last week. A bit like Mexico getting out of the group. But yeah, so we've got that. We've got Germany coming through. Yugoslavia of what is now the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, so it's Yugoslavia minus Croatia. Obviously there's been that bit of trouble going on in the Balkans. When I say a bit of trouble, I'm talking about massive trouble and wars and stuff that kept them out of the Euros in 96, and the genocide and all that type of stuff that had happened at that stage. This was this Serbia and Bosnia, which was still the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia.
Yeah, they still had
Macedonia. Well, no, Macedonia went because Macedonia was in our group. Was in the Irish group. Yeah, because that was the Jason McAteer flying kick to the chest, if I'm right, in the qualifying group, and we lost out there. The US player, the most notable thing of this was that the US played Iran, and they all held flowers for each other, and everything was great. Nobody was killed, and that was the most important thing that ever happened. And then neither of them got out of the group, but Yugoslavia did. And then the last group then was Argentina and Croatia. And this is a mad Argentina team. This is Batistuta at the height, the absolute pinnacle of his powers. He's a smashing centre forward. And then you have Ortega, who was he was meant to be the next coming of Diego Maradona. Now, unfortunately, it didn't turn out to be that. And if anybody's wondering why I'm bending now, it's because I'm cleaning up wine off the floor at this moment in time. And if I don't, my missus will absolutely murder me in the morning time. So, but you've got an Argentina side who is flying, and again, people are looking at them saying, what type of damage can they do? It's the first pure non-Diego World Cup since 1982.
Brilliant Argentina team, this.
Yeah, it's
brilliant.
It's a smashing squad, and you're there going, this is the one Simeone is in it. There's as we said, Batistuta,
Ortega,
Varane is in it as well, and Varane is like an absolute You got Claudio Lopez. I completely forgot about Lopez.
Claudio Lopez, he was a great player for them as well. But
Ayala played right full, didn't he?
The defence was mustered in this, like Ayala and Sensini, and then they had Nelson Vivas and Zanetti at the fullbacks, and they were a brilliant team. They even brought on Jose Chamot off the bench. He was another cracking centre back as well at that stage. They had a quality team. They had Matthias Almeida sitting in front of them with Simeone, really tough team. And maybe this, this was, it sounds stupid, like, but a lot of these squads, they were, without this sounding ridiculous, like, they were men. There was no, it hadn't gone enough stupid haircuts. There were certainly the stupid haircuts in it, but, it was a World Cup where they were all serious. I'd say there was loads of black boots and all in this, you know what I mean, before all the pink stuff came in and all.
Was Passarella the one who told them they all had to get their haircut before the World Cup?
Yeah.
Was that in this one? Yeah, actually, that could have been in this one.
And Batistuta had to get his locks cut off because he wasn't going to be left played in the World Cup.
That's right, he had short hair, didn't he? Yeah,
he did. And
Did Redondo go to this World Cup, or did he refuse to cut? Did someone refuse? One of their big players refused?
I think Redondo refused to cut his hair. Now, Redondo wasn't at the peak. No, Redondo was at the peak of his powers, come to think of it at this stage. This is before he gets seriously injured. He's gone and he's absolutely destroyed United in Old Trafford at one stage as well. Or maybe he's had the knee injury at this stage.
Possible.
Because he's destroyed United remember, he destroyed United in the Champions League, and this is before '99. So I think this is the Redondo Real Madrid. Sorry, lads, for the kind of thing, but I'm just cleaning a load of wine all over the show. I smashed the wine glass last night, so
Jesus,
not on purpose. Well, actually, it was this morning. I don't know what day it is. I don't even know what time it is. It's all the same. It's like literally the Groundhog Day.
It's now, yeah.
But Simeone is the captain. And I remember this Argentina team, but the one that stood out for me, and I'll go back to it, and it's only because I've got my own interests, is Carlos Roa is the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Carlos Roa is part of a mad cult.
Yeah.
Right?
Deadly. Who
believes the world has come to the end at December 31st, 1999. So he plays in this World Cup, and he plays up to I think it's June, and then he packs in football and heads off to a farm awaiting the apocalypse for the end of 1999. This is 100% true, right?
Yeah.
And then it doesn't happen, and basically his whole belief system, he goes into a massive depression and then comes back to Mallorca then the following year and says, can I come back? Like, yeah, we love you, you're great, come back, we'll give you a job back, you're grand, you can still play football. But he went off the farm fields waiting for God to come at the end of 1999. So, but he was God in that tournament, especially when it came to penalty shootouts. Right, lads, knockout stages. Let's get away from we've done an hour on the group stages, and there was really nothing to talk about on it. But the knockout stages where this tournament comes to life, and unlike the last two World Cups, this is one where there is genuine attacking play in the knockout phases. Teams are going for it, right? The first half of the draw in the second round, there's goals all over the shop. The second half is a bit more cagier, but there's still great games that are involved in it. So I'll start. We've got Brazil, Chile, Nigeria, Denmark. We've Holland, Yugoslavia. We've Argentina, England, and that's the top half of the draw. Bottom half of the draw, we've got Norway, France, Paraguay, Germany, Mexico, and Romania, Croatia. So Brazil, Chile, it's an absolute hockeying by Brazil against the Chile side. It's men versus boys when it comes to this. Chile were exciting getting out of group stages, but this is men versus boys, and it's when Ronaldo and Rivaldo start to light this tournament up, and it's a bit like Baggio coming alive in the second round in '94. The two boys just start to really kill the tournament at this stage, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, ultimately they get to the final, but I guess they're just displaying now, aren't they? What they're really all about. Chile is this Chile missed the last couple of World Cups because they've been banned or whatnot? Yeah. So I guess from their point of view, getting out of the group stage was probably their goal, and see where we go from there, sort of thing. But Ronaldo. I mean, that World Cup really was. It was his World Cup, wasn't it? It was shaping up to be his World Cup. He scores 2 goals in that game. And then obviously we will get on to the final and whatnot. It was just a shame the way it all played out ultimately, because it really was looking like it was going to be his World Cup. And look, they smashed Chile 4-1. Chile never really got a sniff. They were
Ronaldo gets a hat trick in this game as well. So it's like he's oh sorry, doesn't he?
No, he gets two.
Did he?
San Paulo got two.
San Paulo.
Yeah. San Paulo gets two, and Dunga's sitting at the bottom of that midfield. That's right. Leonardo is playing as well.
Yeah.
And I always forget that Beto's is still playing this World Cup. Like, that's the mad thing that's going on.
He scored a couple of them, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but like, if you just completely, because Ronaldo and Ronaldo in this, you just forget that Beto, because he's the 94. His swinging the baby is
swinging the baby.
Yeah. But like again, I think did they have? Yeah, it was Chile were playing 3 at the back, so it's all, as you said, it's all vogue at this stage. So, but yeah, am I right in thinking no? Salas did play in this game.
Yeah.
For a second, that Salas hadn't played in this match, but just looking at that, no, he did. Yeah, I just remember, to me anyway, there was a real. I remember the crowd had gone fully onto the Brazilian side. Outside the France games, it was like this was where it came alive, and there was that buzz when they played. And this was a late kickoff as well. This was a 9 o'clock kickoff in terms of what it was. And there's always that feeling, night game. It's a bit like, isn't it, the Anfield magic? You know, the night game when Brazil are playing with the sound of the drums and the banging and all that type of stuff. This is when Brazil really seemed to turn up and play their matches, and this was an example of what it was. But before that, Italy had played that same day against Norway. What can only be described as, and I said to you a second ago, like the top half of the draw was better than the bottom half of the draw. This is Christian Vieri scored in the 18th minute, and then Italy being Italians and just rocking up shop and saying, right, best of luck to you. And the Norwegian lads banging it from left full to centre forward, standing in the right channel, waiting to head it onto some lad to come in and come to it. Like Leonardson play is in this. Bjornaby, like we actually have a genuine interest in this Norwegian team, because you've got Bjornaby, you've got Leonardson now at this stage. We were linked loads of times with your man Havard Flo as well. Do you remember?
Flo.
Yeah.
We were always being linked with him. He was like the first Simeo.
Yeah. But even from a Premier League, like you'd Ronnie Johnson and Henning Berg from the United side of it as well. Like very familiar. Tor Andre Flo was the big stock and a shite up front for them. Like, so they were quite a familiar team to be playing, but I think at the same time you never expected Norway to do anything. Do you know what I mean? They played Egil Olsen as the manager there, and you know, he's just a hoofer. That's a hoofball merchant.
Doesn't he get the Wimbledon job after this World Cup?
Yeah.
Like, that just shows you, like,
wellies and all, doesn't he?
He's perfected his long ball tactics.
Solskjaer actually comes off the
bench.
The bench, yeah.
Strange for Solskjaer to be on the bench, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like he knew something.
Yeah.
But it was one of them. Once Italy got a nose in front, you knew there was no chance of Norway doing anything. You know, they weren't an attacking team. They weren't a team, like we spoke earlier about all the creative sort of midfield players. Norway didn't have them. You know what I mean? They
like you look at this defence. They've Bergamy at right back, Cannavaro and Costa Curta at centre back, and they've Maldini at left back. Like, you're not breaking that down.
No.
There's no one breaking that down. It's just that simple. And strange enough, Baggio isn't play. Baggio. No. Roberto Baggio doesn't start this game. This is Del Piero has taken over now as the number 10 at this point in time, and you've got Di Biagio and Dino Baggio are the two centre mids with Albertini as well. So they're playing a 4-3-3. They're way ahead of their time at that stage. Right. So then the next day was France versus Paraguay, and this was one. And I remember this. I was really excited about this game, because this is like Paraguay going up against the host nation. And this was the host nation without Zinedine Zidane.
Yeah.
Right. And this was also, they started Henry in this game. There was loads of controversy in this World Cup, because Henry and Trezeguet are only kids. They're only 20, and they're only ever coming through from Monaco. I think Henry's gone to Inter Milan and failed miserably at this. He hasn't gone to Juventus. It was. You're right. And Stefan Givash, who I think, has he gone from Marseille to Newcastle, or goes to Newcastle?
I think after this he goes. Yeah.
After this. Givash was seen as the starting centre forward for the French team. And this game, they give Henry the start, but he's pulled after about 65 minutes, and there's nothing between. There's literally nothing. There's a cigarette paper between these two teams for the whole thing, and it's because mainly there's no Zinedine Zidane. But I go back to me the Steve McManaman show. They have nothing. You take Zidane out of this team, and they became ordinary without a focus. Bernard Diamed, Liverpool legend, plays in this game. That's true. Plays in this game as well. But again. Chilavert is absolutely brilliant. The one thing that stands out in my mind, he's pulling off saves all over the shop in this match, and it just goes right the way through. And it was a Larry White header in the end that puts France through. It was a golden goal.
Larry White. Goal, wasn't it?
Yeah. Wasn't it? Yeah.
Larry White bangs in a golden goal. I think was it the first golden goal in World Cup history?
Yeah, it wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
So it's the first golden goal, and it's scored again by Larry White, banging it in the top corner from a header. But like when you look at this team, I remember going through the French squad and you've got Thuram, Larry White, Desailly, and Lizarazu. Like all the top teams in this just have defences that are just immense. And it's like these, you can tell if you can build on that. And they've also got Petit and Deschamps sitting at the centre midfield. Like there's nobody's coming through them. Nobody's coming through them whatsoever. Next game, Denmark and Nigeria. This is the Laudrup brothers. This is like Michael and Brian Laudrup managing to make it to a World Cup where they're both fit. Yeah. They're both on the wrong side of their careers at this stage because Michael has gone back to Ajax. He's had his time at Barcelona and Real Madrid. But this was a brilliant Denmark team, and this was a really exciting Denmark team. You've got Schmeichel, who's approaching the peak of his powers at United as well. Yeah. But the mad thing is, Schmeichel is 34 in this World Cup. 1998 and he's 34. So you don't think of him being that old, because 1999 is around the corner. But this is a smashing Danish team, but I think we all thought at this point that the attacking brilliance of the Nigerian sides were going to sweep away Denmark, and Denmark just turned up and played the most amazing football. And I remember being amazed by the two Laudrups that day. It was just like they were playing in complete synchronicity between the two of them.
Yeah, they were brilliant, absolutely amazing.
You must, like, you think about it, the two teams that get through the group at Spain's expense get dumped out straight away in the next round. Like, they must have been going, they must have been going mad. They must have been absolutely sick. Paraguay and Nigeria both get through, and that's the end of their tournament in the next round, sort of thing. I mean, that's sometimes like when you see these draws, for when you're in the World Cup and you get one of these kind of, I know it's a little bit different nowadays, but, back then, if you got one of these kind of, wild card kind of countries, you just don't want one of those in your group, because they can turn it on, and ultimately that they're not going to really progress very far. But you don't want one of these wild card countries in your group, and that's what Nigeria ended up being, to Spain's expense.
Yeah. Yeah, and but again, this Danish team just make a mockery of it and just pull them apart and destroy them and march into the quarterfinals. Next match we've got Germany against Mexico, and it's just your typical German oppressive football that just grinds Mexico into submission. There's nothing major about it. But I think Mexico do go 1-0 up in this game. But Germany never looked like they were going to struggle. Like, even though like if Liverpool go 1-0 down, you're looking at it and you're saying to yourself, they're going to come back. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like, in this, it's not, and they just pile on and score 2 goals. Bierhoff gets one and Klinsmann gets one. So it's like the two names that stand around the next 20 years of German World Cup football that don't. Then you've got Holland against Yugoslavia, which is probably one of the best games of the second round of games. You've got a mad Yugoslavian team, but you've got Mijatovic and you've got Stojkovic playing for this Yugoslav side. Yeah, you've got Petrovic as well, and you've got Mihailovic at centre back. They were like really, really good players. Then, but for the Dutch team, it's like just a name of stars. You've got Van der Sar, Reutziger, Jaap Stam, Frank de Boer, Newman, David Seedorf, de Boer, Cocu, Overmars, and Bergkamp. Like, you couldn't, and Gus Hiddink is the manager. It's like if you're going to put a team, if you're going to put a superstar team together, that is the superstar team, isn't it? There's to this day, you're just looking at every single one of them, and they're all known.
But it's easy to look at them, isn't it? And I know we sort of touched on it earlier. the amount of infighting that used to happen at Holland at World Cups. You could have a team full of 22 stars and you knew they were just going to blow up. You know, they just didn't have the minerals at all in the big tournaments, and whether it came down to race or whatever it came down to, you just knew they were always on the verge of just exploding within themselves.
Yeah, there was more. There always used to be more than the Dutch camp. But like then the next match, like Holland cruised through. They're 2-1. It's like they were comfortable right the way through. Even though the Yugoslavian team were a very impressive football outfit that was there. But like the next game then is Romania and Croatia. Croatia come through. Davor Suker again. It's the second round. Fellas starting to appear. It's always these names that start to appear and become talisman for the teams. But this is the Croatian side that sets up what's going to be a generation, and even a second generation and a third generation of Croatian teams. You've got Stimac, Simic, Spilic, Stanic, Jarni, Arsenovic, Boban, Vlahovic, and Suker. Like, they are all, again, household names at this stage. But
that's stage, even without Prosinecki. Like, where the fuck's Prosinecki in this?
He was in the group stage. I think he was suspended for that game, was he?
I think he was suspended, a bit like Zidane. He was suspended for the game as well. But like that was the end of the that Romanian side, because does Hadji come back for the next World? I don't think Hadji comes back at that stage.
I don't think he's about 33 in this World Cup. I'd be surprised.
But that takes us on to the main event. Argentina and England. There is only one game. Like the next match we'll deal with is Italy versus France. We'll come back to Argentina and England, and you've got Brazil versus Denmark. Like, there's an argument that says those three games, Argentina versus England, Italy versus France, and Brazil versus Denmark. Sorry, Holland versus Argentina. Like, they're four of the greatest matches of all time in any World Cup. Like, when you talk about the Holland-Argentina game, you could do a 3-hour pod alone on that match. 2-1, and you've got that Bergkamp goal in the 90th minute. We're talking about two teams. Like Kluivert scores in the 12th minute, Lopez in the 17th. It's end-to-end football. I watched back half of that game, and it's mad watching it, because you've got two total footballing sides going non-stop at each other and just taking pops all over the shop. You've got two goalkeepers playing down their skin. You've got defenders making slide tackles and blocks all over the shop. You've got nothing between the sides.
Absolutely. Two teams of superstars, isn't it? It's unreal. I'm looking at the lineups there. It's unreal. The amount of star players in that game. It's at the peak of their power. Like, it's ridiculous.
And then
that Bergkamp goal, lads, is outrageous. That touch is outrageous. It's like that one against Newcastle where he twirls around Andy O'Brien. It's Andy O'Brien twirled around, and you know he's meant it. It's unbelievable, and he just plays in the bottom corner.
But this is why I'm talking about these four matches, because if somebody plays that goal and says nothing, you think France 98, right?
Yeah.
And I'll bring it back to the England game and Argentina. Michael Owen, the run and the goal, right? Like, that happens, and if somebody plays that moment, that's all you think. You think France 98. You say, where were you when Michael Owen scored that goal? It was just incredible to watch. And I when I look back at this, I completely forgot that it was already 1-1 at that stage.
Yeah.
But the Steelton scores a penalty after 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Shearer gets one after 9 minutes. It's almost like people have completely forgotten what happened in the lead up to that Michael Owen goal, because the opening 20 minutes in that game was one of the most frantic 20 minutes I've ever seen in a football match, despite the two teams and the two defences that were in front of them. And it's mad. It's pure mad.
Is this the first time they've played since the 86 World Cup?
I think it is.
Yeah, it would be, yeah.
And you'd all, I suppose, the Falkland stuff was all clouding over the 86 game. Then you had the hand of God.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time there was loads of animosity in around this game. And then even more so in 2002 then, because you've the whole bleeding Beckham redemption shite to come. But I remember at the time of this, like, the amount of needle in this game was unreal. And again, you're looking at the lineups in these matches. My God, the quality on show in this is just outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, as I was saying about, we did want to avoid, England did want to avoid Argentina, and ultimately they get Argentina. Now, the funny thing is, if you look back at this, just think what Croatia have become. As Phil touched on, what they become in this tournament. what they are now, what they've become to England as well. Ironically, they're our nemesis now.
Yeah.
And that could have started all the way back in France '98 had things have slightly turned out differently. But it turns out this is kind of the second game of a kind of trilogy against Argentina. And yeah, I mean, saying about remembering where you were when this game, I was actually, this probably put a bit of a smile on your faces actually, because I was in, I at this stage, having been to the opening game, I was actually on holiday in Lanzarote, and I was in one of those, most English of English bars that you can imagine in Spain, where the place was absolutely, bursting at the seams, full of England fans. And obviously, when Michael Owen scores that goal, as a Liverpool fan, I went absolutely mental when Michael Owen scores that goal. But probably what sticks out in this game more than that, for me, than the Michael Owen goal, is how that pub went off when Sol Campbell scored that goal that never was.
Jesus.
Oh my God. I mean, the place just went upside down, and then it took so long to realise that it had been disallowed, and the disbelief as to why it had been disallowed. And you almost felt like there was an inevitability then that England were going to go out after that was disallowed. You know what I mean? It was. I still don't understand why it was disallowed to this day.
But like, the thing that jumped at me in this, and it gets overlooked, the Beckham sending off happens on the 47th minute.
Yeah.
Shitebag Simeone.
The performance that England put in is arguably one of their greatest ever.
Yeah.
And man, yeah.
And it never gets the credit it does because they get knocked out on penalties. But you think they go on to they were facing an Argentina side that has Batistuta, and then they bring on Hernan Crespo. We're talking about world-class talent coming off the bench and coming onto the pitch to break down a torn England side, a torn 10-man England side. God forbid I ever give England any credit when it comes to these games, but what that English team did that day stands up to anything that any English team has ever done in the World Cup. I'm being totally honest with you, they were brilliant, and it was like, I even felt a bit sorry for them.
They were brilliant. They were, but again, touching on it, they played essentially with, not a back five, because you wouldn't say Darren Anderton was an orthodox fullback, but they went down to 10 men, and if they were going to lose anyone, not that Beckham wasn't, he was an influential player, he was a superstar on the rise at that stage, but they lost a player playing in central midfield who probably wasn't central midfielder, and they just started batting down the hatches, didn't they? And they really pulled together. I agree with you, Phil. I thought they were brilliant after that, after that red card, and it was, again, I keep saying it, but the quality, there was no one hiding in that team. It was a team of men, and I sound like Blade and Graham Souness saying that, good men playing, or Johnny Giles, honest, hard-working players and all that, but they really were. It was an honesty of effort, you know what I mean? They were so bleeding strong, and they pulled together. And you're right, against a great Argentina team. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can say, again, Argentina were a defensive team, but you have Batistuta and Claudio Lopez or Crespo to come on, but you have Ariel Ortega and you've Juan Sebastian Veron as well in there. So you could say, like, they're quite defensive, but their attacking players had a lot of freedom. And to withstand that, a lot of credit needed. And it's a great forgotten performance by England because they went out, because the things that shine from that game, Owen's goal is Beckham's red card, and as Ray on Sol Campbell's disallowed goal.
Yeah, and Batty's missed penalty.
Poor old David Batty.
Yeah. Not only David Batty missing the penalty, but the commentary. I don't know if you remember that. Well, I don't know whether you would have listened to the ITV commentary at the time, but it was Brian Moore and Kevin Keegan, and Brian Moore says to Kevin Keegan just as he's about to take the penalty, quickly, will he score? And Kevin Keegan says yes.
Yes.
It's almost like that Steve McLaren moment. More recently, when he's
Keegan's just an optimist, isn't he?
Yeah. The Italy-France game is next, right? And it's a 0-0 draw. It goes to penalties, and France get through on penalties, and that's probably the best That's the best summarization of that game. Like of all the players, all the creativity, you've got Del Piero, you've Baggio, you've got Zidane, you've got Yuri Djorkaeff in that game. It's just mad that it was that type of match where neither team made any real clear chances, opportunities, and it was just one of those games where they cancelled each other out, and it would set the stage for, was it Euro 98, Euro 2000?
2000, yeah.
The
final, wasn't it?
It was the final between the two of them. It was a vastly different final in terms of what was there. But as arguably the game, most people will even talk about the Brazil-Denmark and the Brazil-Denmark match. Was that the last one?
3-2.
Yeah. No, so we're on to the quarterfinals now. Aren't we? So that was Italy-France was the first quarterfinal. Argentina-England was the last of the second round, but we're on to the quarterfinals. So there's not much to talk about that. But then you've got two of the best quarterfinals. It's Brazil-Denmark. It's 3-2. It's madness. You've got Denmark taking the lead. You've got Brazil equalising after 10 minutes. You've got Rivaldo then scoring. Rivaldo scoring was it a free kick he scored at 25 minutes, or was it? I can't remember which way it flows. But Rivaldo scores after 25, then Laudrup scores after 50 minutes, and then they break Denmark's hearts with Rivaldo scores again in the 59th minute. And it's like, you're looking at it, but Denmark kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and it just doesn't happen. Yeah.
Again, great teams, and I'd forgot all about this World Cup, you know what I mean? The quality that was in it, and Denmark had I'd forgot all about them, you know what I mean, until we're talking. But you're looking at a great Danish team, and you're right, the Laudrup brothers really were absolute quality in this World Cup at this stage, you know what I mean? And it was great to see them, as you touched on. Michael's on the way down, but Brian is really, and I think, is he playing for Rangers at this stage?
Playing for Rangers, yeah.
Really at the peak of his
Michael Laudrup was having that Indian summer, when you have that one great tournament that an agent like Maradona was going to have in 94, in terms of there, it's the last hurrah. He knows it's his swan song, and he just gives absolutely everything to a tournament, and that's what Laudrup does in this tournament itself.
I remember Helveg lads standing out for me hugely in this tournament for them as well. I think, did he get moved to Milan after this journey? He was absolutely sensational, he was. But
again, what the difference here is, one team has Bebeto, Ronaldo, and can bring on Danielson as a substitute. Denmark only had Peter Muller as their starting centre forward and brought on then Ebbe Sand as the replacement for him, and that in itself is the key difference between the two teams. So it's like, you're looking at it and you say to yourself, if you're looking at what the difference is, that is the difference between the two of them. And then you have the game that this tournament is remembered for, and that is Holland against Argentina. This is you've got everything that goes on. We know the final, what happens in the final, the whole lot, but this Holland and Argentina game, coming off the back of the England game, obviously all the English fans have jumped on board. The Dutch, they can nip on the ferry over across to Rotterdam and the whole lot. But this is you've got two phenomenal attacking sides. Going back to what we were just talking about again, and they just open up. But again, it's a tight affair, but they go end to end. I remember going, who's going to win this? I couldn't figure out who the hell was going to win this. And they just go end to end, and it's just madness. And was there two sending offs on this as well? Am I right thinking that one of the Dutch player gets sent off, and then Argentina absolutely battered them for the best part of 10 minutes, and then they get somebody sent off.
Tega
gets sent off. That's right. And then then the moment happens, you've got the Frank de Boer pass. It's like it is a Dutch centre back thing where they can pass as well as any of the centre midfielders or any of the attacking midfielders. It's Virgil van Dijk stuff.
It's total football, isn't it?
Oh, it's just beautiful.
You look at these boys from Holland or Netherlands. We've got a Caulfield. Only recently have been come back from Ajax, and you're playing against. I know we're going off track here, but we're playing against a kid centre mid lads, and he was pushed to centre half within 5 minutes of the game, and I turned around to the coach and I was more or less why, and he said he takes too many touches of the ball. He's going to play centre half now for the next 3 matches. And you're looking, going, what? And you want to see this guy that's head and shoulders pinging balls around. Guy is 12 years of age, and it just shows you how it all comes through in later years in regards to their ability, in regards to their how technical they are. They can play in most positions, and you just touched on it there, Phil. The Boers is a prophet of all that.
To be fair, anyone listening to this tomorrow, if you haven't, if you're not old enough or you can't remember this World Cup, if you get the opportunity to go back and watch one game from the 1998 World Cup, watch Holland against Argentina. Yeah. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's just a great football game to watch, and the pace involved in it. Like sometimes if you go back and watch the 1990 games or even some of the 94 games, it's very slow. This has a frantic pace to it. It's brilliant to watch. Germany against Croatia, there's only one thing to mention about this. The Germans get absolutely thumped by Croatia in this match. and not just, they get battered. Like this looks like there's no words for this. This is Lothar Matthäus' last World Cup, and it's like they're all over the shop, and it's not a great German side. Let's be honest about it, right? And even though they walked easily through the group, this is like they just get bashed. And this, as I said to you, this is where you get your surprise team in a World Cup. And Croatia, we had Bulgaria in the last one, we had Sweden in the last one. This is the equivalent of these in this one here. Yeah.
But no one sees it coming still. I know you're saying, they were a great side and whatnot, but, Germany in tournaments, and there was no real sign that something like this was coming. Croatia, obviously, we know what they are now, but back then they were they were just completely unknown. And Germany have a man sent off after 40 minutes, which obviously, has some kind of influence. Croatia 3-0, no one would have seen that in a million years, sort of thing. And there's two things that you look out for as an England fan. You're always obviously looking out for England, but you're always looking at Germany, and you're always hoping that they get knocked out by hook or by crook. But that was just a massive, massive shock.
They had a very aging team, didn't they, in that World Cup, Germany? Yeah. They were sort of at the end of a cycle nearly. I'm looking at some of them now. Kopke was 36. Yeah. Kohler was 32. Helmer was 33. Olaf Thon 32. And they all played in the 90 World Cup as well. Andres Mola 30. Matthäus 37. Kirsten 32. Hassler 32. Marshall 32. Klinsmann 33, Stefan Reuter 31, Berhoff 30, even Tarnat, Lehmann were all 28, 29. So they had a squad that were really aging, and they just looked like they were running on fumes after, maybe peaking at Euro 96.
Exactly.
And then this was a tournament too far for them.
Yeah, but
they thought it was an hour 35 tournament, Keith.
That's what it was, yeah.
But this is it, you see, if you win a tournament like they did 2 years previous, then the temptation is to just carry on with the old guard, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
but the problem, a lot of them were there and had come to the end. Like, a lot of them were in the 1990 squad and were still there in the 98, you know what I mean? And maybe it was a time to freshen it up. But, hindsight's a wonderful thing as well, I suppose.
Yeah, did he have hands in that side as well?
Yeah, did he have hands in the side? That's where
he get his move to Newcastle after that, or was he at Newcastle at that stage?
Yeah, after that, yeah.
Right, so we've got now our semi-finalists. We've got Brazil and Holland, and we've got France and Croatia. Right, obviously everyone was expecting France and Germany, and Brazil and Holland would have been expected, or Brazil versus Argentina wouldn't have been. If that had panned out, I'm sure that all the money that was passing hands, if you look at how that lineup looks like, you would have had France versus Germany, World War II repeated, and then you would have had Brazil versus Argentina, which is every Copa America that goes on ever. But we don't. We've got Brazil versus Holland, and this again, following on from the Holland-Argentina game. Holland are brilliant in this match, but you have the brilliance of Ronaldo. This is just a phenomenal goal he scores against Holland in this match, and it looks like Brazil are going to see this out until the 87th minute.
Kluivert, wasn't it?
Yeah, Kluivert decides that he's just as good as Ronaldo and scores an absolute bendy of a goal. It's a sweet thing, and then like that, whatever, like outside of Larry White scoring the golden goal doesn't, like, I always got the impression in this that teams then become more fearful because of the golden goal, and they become almost more defensive. They don't want to expose themselves too much, because if they do, they may get stuck and they may get caught. But then they go to penalties, and if England thought they were bad at penalty shootouts, they don't even come close to the Dutch when it comes to penalty shootouts, because they're just impossible. Like, if you want to get a team in a penalty shootout, Holland is your man, because they are going to bottle it. They need to get a few of the Irish over there, because we're brilliant at penalty shootouts. But like that, lads. Like, I remember this and looking at it, and you couldn't pick between these two teams. You literally, there was nothing to pick between them, and it was too close, and that's how the game just pans out. And it's a good semi-final. Sometimes you get brilliant semi-finals. This is a good semi-final, and it's a very tactical one. But ultimately, Brazil triumph on penalties, and I think they win. They don't even get to take the last penalty. I think they win 4-2 on penalties in terms of what's there. Kaku and Ronald de Boer both missed their penalties. That's right, and Brazil, I have no idea. I'm assuming Ronaldo and Rivaldo scored, and then some random Brazilian lads that they found on the beach to score bar penalty, and it was grand.
Emerson and Dunga got the orange.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, but that was Emerson. I'm assuming the one who played for
Middlesbrough. Was
Middlesbrough, yeah.
Not the Middlesbrough one. I'm assuming it was the one who played for Real Madrid and Roma and Bayer Leverkusen. Remember?
Oh yeah,
it was. Yeah.
And then the other semi-final, and haven't started off so well. Like the French side, I remember this game not being great. Being totally honest with you, I remember the fear was that Croatia were such a good side that they may do damage and they could knock out. And there was a fear that France, being the host nation, getting so close, but would miss out on what the final was here. And from memory, Suker scores directly after half time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Thuram scored right after it, didn't he?
Yeah. Straight
when Suker scores, I remember the absolute silence that fell across the Stade de France, and it was like it was almost like the world had ended. That's one of those sliding door moments. If Thuram doesn't score so quickly after Suker scores, right? What happens next is anyone's guess, because if you look at how the French rugby fans get on their back when things aren't going right for them, that could have easily happened for the French national.
Very good point, because I'd say the crowd would have started getting antsy at that stage. And I think it could have been a different. I don't know, again, if your auntie had balls, she'd be your uncle, but I think it's it is a great what if, because as you've said, you see it in the rugby, they do turn quite easy. They're an emotional bunch, and the fact that they just got back in front straight away just made all the difference.
Yeah. If you think about France, after they get out the group, they're not very impressive in the rounds after that, are they? They're scoring a goal. They're scraping through round after round, and then they go down.
Penalties against Italy, and then they nailed a 2-1 here. The Thuram scores. You're not going to get you're not expecting your right back to score 2 goals to get you through in a semi-final of a World Cup final, and that's after Larry White gets sent off as well, so he can't play in the final either. He gets sent off towards the back end of this game. That was the one thing I'll never forget, that, because remember LeBouf was playing for Chelsea, and the whole thing was that Barthez used to kiss. Was it kiss LeBouf's head? Or what was it? Was it?
They used to kiss the ball. Yeah, the ball. They used to kiss Barthez' head, wasn't it?
That's right. In terms of what it was for good luck or whatever it was, and poor old Larry White was holding on to the best end of his hairs that he could. So I'm looking at it, and they're going. Giva starts. Trezeguet and Henry comes on. Nothing happens, and the lads go through, and the whole of France is happy. I think Thuram. I can't even remember Thuram's goals. I can't remember anything outside of anything that France did outside of Zidane in the final, to be totally honest with you. Right? And I know Zidane did lots of amazing things, but Zidane's real World Cup isn't until a couple of years later. But this was the moment for him in terms of what it was. And they had Croatia, but that takes us through. Croatia get knocked. I feel sorry for Croatia because the lads did great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they were chuffed enough with what they ended up with. They win the third place. playoff, don't they? They win the third place playoff. And Suko ends up as the gold boot winner.
He's got 6 goals for the golden boot. He
scores, you go
into the third place playoff, and that's against. But I think that Holland don't take that serious. They're playing lads like Zidane and stuff like that in the third place playoff, and they just go, yeah, whatever, that's grand. And then the Croatian lads play everyone bar, I think. Now Prosinecki gets to play in the third place, but that's about it. And then the final, lads. The final has 2 things. It'll be remembered for 2 people, and one is this is the Ronaldo final. Yeah, you can call it, Zidane makes the final, but this is the Ronaldo final. To this day, nobody knows what happens. I remember watching it on television, going, "What the fuck is that about?" And just go, "This is mental." What was your thoughts, Car?
I remember the big Nike fiasco. Obviously, that ad had been the prelude to everything, and that ad had been constantly played throughout it. Obviously, Ronaldo got his couple of goals in a previous round, and you'd heard carry on from a hotel that morning that someone had been taken seriously ill. Then we heard it was Ronaldo and it was pressured, and then obviously the aftermath was we heard that we believe, or what we're led to believe, is that Nike's pressure to pay him to make him play in that final was huge. And it ended up turning out to be an Adidas v Nike final, which was also a big thing back then because but it's as you say, it turned out it was probably a bit of a downfall for Ronaldo at this time.
Keith,
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Don't know what's going on with my thing. This final was built up. I remember it as well. The whole thing had come out during the day, what was going on, and you just remember looking at it saying, "There's no way, you're not going to get Ronaldo in this final," and you felt cheated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was just, is it going to be a real final? I couldn't believe it. And when he came out and he just looked. Jesus, he looked like a shell, and the other players didn't look like, you know what I mean? And you saw, again, we spoke about the French mentality in the last game that they could have went to shite when Croatia scored, and this was a kick up the arse that they needed as well. That to see their main man like this, it was just like this is a shot in the arm that we needed.
When you see the talisman of the other team looking like a shell, like I remember coming out and there was the whole thing, and you're like, "Oh, I hope he lights up the stage. I just hope he lights up," and that this has all been rumours and stuff like that weren't true. But like you could see that he was nowhere near what he'd been in the previous rounds, the knockout rounds, the group stages. It was really, really sad to see that, because we deserve to see Ronaldo at his full power and Zidane at his full power, because on the flip side was Zidane suddenly steps up, and when the true greats always step up in the biggest moments. Yeah. And this is just immense. And like we were talking, when I see the goals, when you see Zidane's goals in this, you never forget again what World Cup it was and what that meant, because it's just like come at the hour and come at the man. And that was this was Zidane's announcement that he wasn't just here to make up numbers. He's now arguably the best player in the world.
That's exactly it, and it was it's a period, isn't it, of they go into, he steps up, and this hadn't been great in this World Cup, you know what I mean? He'd been sent off, he'd had a few moments, but hadn't been what everyone expected. But when it comes to the final, he's the one that's getting the goals, and as you said, stepping up when needed, important goals and important times, carries that forward into Euro 2000 as well. Scores golden goal penalty, I think, to knock Portugal out, wasn't it, in that, and just steps up against England as well in another one late on. So Zidane is the player to step up at the big moment, and that's what we've seen, the birth of that nearly in this final, which is sad.
In a Champions League final, Keith, 2 years later, I think the volley. Yeah.
And this is the beauty of Zidane. He just always, when he's called on, he always turns up. He always appears and he always delivers. It's why people don't talk about him being in the top 3 best players of all time, but he should be in that conversation. You don't have to be a centre forward to be in that. Like he makes He makes Juventus tick. He makes Real Madrid tick. He makes this French team tick. He carries a French team in a later World Cup when they had no right to get where he did, and he gets into a final as well. Like he is truly one of the greatest players of all time, and deserves to be in the same conversation that we have around Messi, Ronaldo, Maradona, and stuff like that, because he's a legend, and this is his coming out essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I remember in the lead up to the final, Brazil were the big favourites, but even before the whole kind of Ronaldo situation emerging on the morning of the game, I remember thinking, France, there just seemed to be something about them, and something almost destined that they were going to win that World Cup in their own backyard. They haven't been great, but they just seemed to be, and they didn't have a striker who was scoring 5 or 6 goals and carrying them through the tournament. I think it was the margin and the manner of the win that was the big surprise. A 3-0 win. Could have seen a cagey, 1-0 or, a goal or penalties again. But it was the fact that, and obviously the Ronaldo thing was a big reason behind it, but it was the fact that it was so comfortable, and it was by far France's best performance in the whole tournament. And
it's also, people forget that neither Trezeguet or Henry playing this game.
Yeah.
Don't even get on as a substitute. And Dessay also gets sent off.
Is it still Guivash, is it?
Guivash starts.
Starts.
And they brought on Christophe Dugarry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Vieira, you can tell by the players, Vieira and Bogassian come on as well, and there's no way they're putting on 20-year-old Henry or Trezeguet in this, it's these fuckers on. And
two goals up, and it was really, we'll make it stick. And then Petit scores in injury time as well, which to wrap it all up.
Yeah.
But I'll go back to something Keith says, and I said we finish on this in terms of wrapping the World Cup. So Platini's admitted that they fixed the draw in the group stages, right? They said they fixed it so that they couldn't meet Brazil in any earlier phase than in the final, right?
Wow.
So, and it's on record in terms of what's there. But it's a Moroccan referee who gets the game. It's the referee. And then I go back to, they're the only one that scores the goal. And, they have players sent off, yet they all seem to get through. To me, there has to be a bang of corruption of this World Cup. Because remember, there's 5 people involved in this World Cup. You've got Joe Havilange, Lennart Johansson, Sepp Blatter.
Sepp Blatter's first one.
Yeah. And he was FIFA secretary. He wasn't the president of FIFA at this stage. And you've got Michel Platini, who's the head of whatever it is. And
you've Chuck Blazer as well, isn't he?
I was going to say, the last one was France got this off the back of a load of bribes in 1992, which was confirmed by Chuck Blazer, who him and Jack Warner were getting presents all over the shop from France to have the World Cup awarded by them. So, to me, there has always been a stink off this World Cup saying, is it as clean as people would love it to be? It's arguably for me the last true World Cup that I enjoyed, because there was a lot of attacking football. There's all those great games we've talked about. It's probably the last one where you've got a lot of teams that have domestic players. In terms of Italy are all domestic players. You've got the French team is heavily domestic in terms of what it is. The Dutch team, a lot are still playing in Holland. The German team, obviously based in Germany. You've got all this sort of, it's the last real World Cup where the main body of the teams that you see in the later stages are the best of their own home league. And then after that, it just becomes very global. So it's probably the last time the World Cup is seen as the pinnacle of the game itself, because from here on out, the Champions League clearly takes over, and the club game takes over what's there. But there is an awful stench of fucking corruption off this World Cup.
Yeah, but it's mad. Like, if you think back to at the time, Platini was seen as this sort of nearly paragon of virtue. This, there's no way he's corrupt. He's the ex-player. He's the saviour of football, and just mad how it pans out. It was like the axes of evil all got together for this one, wasn't it? Like, you'd named Havilange, Johansson, Blatter, Platini, and then the Blazers and the Jack Warners and all. It really, I haven't really thought about it, but yeah, it's a stinker, all right.
It is. It's like when you step back from it, because it's too mad. the whole thing is a bit too much in terms of what it is. Right. We're going to wrap this up. We've got 8 minutes left, and we're into a 2-hour pod. And I'm going to split this tomorrow and turn it into a 60-minute for the group stages and 60-minute for the knockout stages. Right, but here's the quiz. Going to do something slightly different with the quiz. So, Ray, you're England, right? Keith, you are Argentina, and Gar, you are Brazil, right? So, if you know the answer to the question, shout out your team. And you get the first opportunity to answer the question, right? There's 5 questions. The winner is obviously the one that gets the most questions right, okay? Ray's gone, his battery's died, so it's down. So Ray's gone. So the next, we're down to just Keith and Gar. So we can just go Argentina or Brazil, right? So it's back to traditional wars. So lads, 5 questions. Here we go, all right? Oh, Gav is jumping in. He's jumping. Gav is jumping in specifically for the quiz, so which is fair enough. Gav, you back? Are you in? You're in. You're good, man. Great to have you. Yeah, it's great to have you. And Ray is back.
Here's they go back.
Cheers, thanks, good luck. Right, Ray, you're back.
I'll just grab me beer. Hang on.
Good man. So you're England, Keith is Argentina, and Gar's Brazil, right? So the quiz is simple. 5 questions. All right, fair enough. Okay, right. Here's the quiz. Cheers. Right, have you got your earphones in?
I have, yeah.
Okay, excellent. So here's the quiz, right? You're England, Keith is Argentina, and Gar's Brazil, right? If you know the answer, shout out your team, and you get the first chance to answer it. Okay. If you get the answer wrong, you have to sit out the next question, right? And we go until somebody gets 3 questions right. Right? There's no choose.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what it is, right? Okay, so first question, lads. 4 teams made their debut at this World Cup. Right? Croatia, Japan, Jamaica. Who was the other team?
England.
Go on, right?
I'm going to say South Korea.
Incorrect.
We've got a choice between Argentina and Brazil. Who's next up?
I don't know.
Debut, yeah. We're gonna go Brazil. I don't know if we heard most of this because it sort of went. I'm gonna go Norway.
Okay, so you obviously missed the
Argentina. Who was the 3? Who's the 3?
The 3 nations
is Japan, Croatia.
The 3 qualified for the first time. Croatia, Jamaica, and Japan. There was a 4th team. What was the 4th team?
Tunisia.
Okay, no, none of you's got that right. We'll move on to the next question. The right answer was South Africa. Right. Right. Now, next question. Who won the Fair Play Award?
Argentina.
Go on, Keith.
France and England.
That's 1-0 to Keith. Well done. Next one. That's right. Who won the award for the most entertaining team in the Football World Cup in 1998?
Argentina.
Go
France.
On. Jesus, Keith, you're on fire here. That's 2 out of 3 now. You have, right? Okay. So moving it back, what stadium had the smallest capacity?
Argentina.
Go on.
What's the name? The stadium or the city?
The stadium.
Fuck off then. The Felix Boulard.
You're out with this one.
Brazil, Montpellier.
Do you know what the name of the stadium was, Gar?
I haven't a laugh, no. I'm just going Montpellier.
That's why I didn't go in.
Give me half.
The most honor.
Oh, would you stop?
Keith, you're out of this one. So, Gar, I'll give you half a point for getting the town right. And Ray, I'll give you half a point as well because both of you went from Montpellier. It was Montpellier. It was the Stade de la Maison.
Stade de la Maison.
Yeah. Okay. So, name the Scottish match official that was
Argentina.
England.
You
Go on.
guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
Shit.
Keith. Well done. You won the quiz. You got 3 out of 5 questions. You literally were Dutch penalty shootout. I love you. Well done. Right, lads. That's been the 1998 World Cup. Thanks for joining in. For everyone who's hung around for 2 hours, if you have, fair play to you. I am going to bed now and I will edit this tomorrow. There'll be 2 pods out. There'll be one that covers off the group stages and the second that covers off the knockout phases. Gav is back. Gav, you back? Gav is back tomorrow night. I don't know what the lads are talking about. And then there's also the Gav and Andy random chats at some stage this week as well.
That's tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Brilliant.
Excellent.
Make
So
it
live
a 2-hour one.
Make it a 2-hour one. 2-hour pods are all the rage.
Lovely stuff.
I spilled wine all over my floor. Lads, I'm in so much trouble tomorrow. Right. That's been the club. I've been your host, Phil Casey. That's been Ray Dickinson. And he's almost got enough battery left to get him out through this. I've got Keith, who's been stuck in a constant and Keith, I have to say,
Don't know what's going on.
you look like, what was your man's name out of Love Hate?
The good looking fella.
Fran.
And that, of course, has been Gary Breen, the only man here who played in the World Cup 98 qualifier. It's been the club. We'll talk to you again next week. And next week, are we doing 2002 or are we going to start doing the European Championships?
Where was 2002? Is that Korea, Japan?
Japan, yeah.
Oh, this is Robbie Keane, isn't it?
This is the Robbie Keane World Cup.
Oh, there you go. 2002.
Phil Casey World Cup.
There is. I'm going to have to dig out the fourth place song for Japan from FM 104 that I may have been responsible for. Right, that's been the club. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you all next week.